Okay. Hi, it's Tim Allwood, the Director of Compass Property Investing, here today with Doug. Doug's been with us for many years, had a bit of time off there in retirement, and until we got him back out of retirement and then dragged him back out of the surf, which I'll never let him let down, because any successful rescue is a good one.
True.
But what we're here to do today, Doug, as you know, we've been fighting over the questions and answers here that people have sent in from our series, Investing Made Easy. And this is the final session, the question and answer session. So we're going to do that, do one each, and hopefully you'll get something out of it. And if we don't explain it well enough, or you need further questions, just inquire, register, and there's some gifts for you as well when you register. So,
True.
On with the show. Disclaimer, they say first. A disclaimer is the fact that anything we say is live, so we can't take it back. And you stand to become wealthy if you follow the information, subject to the fact that you talk to one of our people and any recommended independent finance specialists that we use. Yeah. So, and because everyone's situation is different.
That's right.
And you've seen it over the years, Doug.
Yeah.
So as long as you follow the bouncing ball with what we recommend and who to talk to, you will be very safe, and that's what it's all about. And we have a proven system that works for everyone, so it should work for you as well. So that's enough of the disclaimer. We are now going to move on to question number one, and that is going to be with you, Doug.
Just talking about, before you start, just talking about proven systems. I was thinking the other day, and I was actually took clients up to view their property. You know, one of the most exciting things that we do, that for me,
seeing the look in their face,
is actually take a new client, a first-time investor into their property, and I did that yesterday with Farouk, a family from Sydney, and they're a lovely family, you know, and we understand they've gone through a roller coaster of emotion over the period of time. Have we done the right thing? Have we done the wrong thing? And that, and they're getting supported the whole way. But the greatest thing is when you take them into there and you open the door of their new property and they walk through, and I just stand back and watch their faces, and it's like, oh wow, you know, the kids were running around, oh look at this, look at that, and
so that they did a video with you, so that video will be up very soon. And
for me, that's one of the most exciting things we can do.
They were beautiful people. They dropped in. It's fantastic. So hopefully you get to do the same. So Doug, question one. Thanks for that. Why should someone choose property over other forms of investment?
Okay, well, we're not financial advisors, so we can't actually give people financial advice. So what we basically do is talk from our experience in things. What I've found over the years that property is probably the lowest risk, most predictable return of any investment that you can make. And there's a couple of reasons for that. When you look at shares are the share market is 100% investor dominated. And if you know anything about the share market, greed drives it higher and fear makes it crash. You know, even blue chip shares have got the potential to go to zero. Property can never go to zero. And one of the reasons for that is, like in the past 12 months, we've had 386,000 new people arrive in Australia. Right. So they need accommodation. So property, and Australians have got a great love affair with property. We understand it. You know, the Australian dream is to own property.
Sure.
So for me, a comparison of shares to property is lowest risk. Everyone needs a place to live. Not everyone needs to own shares.
Sure, that's right. And you know, when you're talking about immigration and people making babies, there's 300,000-400,000 houses. And every household in Australia has an average of 2.1, let's say 2 people to.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's still 150, 200,000 houses a year. You cannot possibly keep up with it. So that's just on demand alone.
Exactly. That's right.
Very good.
Okay, Tim, your turn.
What is it?
Question 2. What does Compass do, and how much do you charge?
Oh, okay. What do we do? We don't charge anything for a start, and there are companies that do, and I don't see the need. We get paid by the builder, and the builder only, and it's something I'm very passionate about, because the majority of our properties will come in on valuation, and that's something a lot of companies can't do. And how we do that also is with using good builders. But I'll just explain what we do. In a nutshell, we tell you where to invest based on proper research, independent research. The big research houses and the small ones, we use them, and we give you that information. Okay, that'll tell us what suburb, and then we find a good builder. Now, there's plenty of bad builders, and there's plenty of average builders, and there's a few good builders. We only use the good builders because I don't need the headaches. All of us don't. So, and how do we find them? through experience. The good builders have a lot of experience. If they're a start-up business or haven't done too many houses, we make sure they're not building too many houses at once, and all these sort of things. It all comes into it. And when they start having headaches, we just start moving away. But we've got some really good builders, 3 years of experience and having no hair.
You've only got to look at some of the testimonies on the website. The people are happy with the builders. Yeah. Most people will say it's just been seamless. You've had absolutely no problems, 100%. And that's credit to Compass, to the support staff, and also to the builders to make that a seamless situation.
And then, so what we do then, as you know, Doug, is we refer you to a good real estate agent, and we oversee them. We become your big brother to ensure hassle-free investing. Yeah. But along the way, we make sure you go to a good solicitor. We make sure you're referred to a good finance specialist, which I think is one of the most important things. And anything else you need done, your tax depreciation, you get told what to do, when to do it. You get ongoing proof of what's happening, videos and whatnot. So it's a great experience, and you know, like you said before, seeing the clients come out at the end of it, and the referrals.
That's
and
the best part.
It's good. So next question is yours, Doug.
Right.
How much deposit do I need to buy an investment property?
Okay, well that's a bit of an open-ended question.
You've got it.
Sorry?
That's what you've got it.
Yeah. Okay, so normally, you know, if you've got 10% deposit, that's a pretty good start. But what we would say is, one of the things we do at Compass, we refer you to finance experts. I'm not a finance expert, so we have finance people that will talk you through the entire situation. They'll do an in-depth assessment, not only of your financial situation, but your financial capability, and they'll make sure that they're targeting an investment structure and a loan structure that fits you. So when you talk about how much deposit do you need, it's somewhere around 10% will get you into a property. Also, what comes into it too is the amount of cash you've got compared to equity. So there's a difference there.
Income.
And income. Yeah, some people are cash flow poor. They don't have a lot of savings, but they've got great equity. And so a finance expert can actually structure a property for you that way.
And the bottom line is, most people are very surprised at what they can do.
Absolutely.
They assume they can't, so they just don't bother. But, you know, the biggest mistake.
Well, how many people do we talk to that say, you know, they inquire just out of curiosity rather than not understanding they can do anything? They've always wanted to invest, but they've always felt it was out of reach. That's a good thing about using experts.
That's right.
Yeah, I always think, and I was saying to Farouk yesterday when I took them up, if I was planning a trip to climb Mount Everest, what's the first thing I'd do?
Ask me.
No, I wouldn't ask you.
Okay.
I'd ask you about property, but I wouldn't ask you about that.
True.
First thing I'd do is find a guide.
Okay.
And I'd want someone who'd been there. I wouldn't want a first-time guide. I'd want someone who knew where the ravines were, knew where the loose rocks were, 100%. Someone that's been there heaps of time. And that's exactly the same with investing.
Simple.
You know, I mean, you want people who have done it, they've been there multiple times. You know, we know where the pitfalls are. We put risk management strategies in place.
Yeah, don't ask the person at the pub or at the bus stop, you know.
Exactly.
Get proper advice.
Yeah, or sometimes don't ask the next door neighbour, because half the time they'll give you bad advice. They probably never invested themselves, but they don't want anyone else to invest either. So.
Exactly. Doug, you have a question for me?
Probably, Tim.
Oh, okay. Good.
A lot of people talk about gearing. So what's gearing?
Okay, that's a good question. Gearing, it simply means where you've actually take a little bit of equity out of your house, if you've got it, and use it to borrow for another one. So if you take 10% equity out, plus say some costs, that might take the 20% of equity, very small amount really, of your next purchase, and put it there, and then you borrow money. But everything is safe because it's in a separate freestanding investment. It's isolated from your existing house, but it's also in an asset that the banks like. So they'll value it, they'll value it right down of course, but it's safe. And they wouldn't give you the money if it wasn't feasible for them, then last at you. And they put buffers in place where they assume that interest rates are going to go up by 2%. Lots of protection mechanisms. So it just gives you the ability to leverage, and you can't really do that with shares and other forms of investment. You can to a degree, but no greater than property. And you know, it's the greatest gift. And the government will never take it away, simply because most of the politicians use investment properties for their wealth creation, one. But two, the Australian government doesn't really promote or put a lot of housing commission housing in, so they rely on the private sector to build that. So it's here to stay, and all the little twists you hear about in the paper are just blown out of proportion because they sell papers. So it's here to stay for a long time, and it's what you should be using. It's an easy one. Okay, 5, Doug, yours. Mm-hmm. I've seen some of your videos, probably my videos, whatever, and you talk about saving tax. How can you save tax, Doug, with investment property?
Okay, well, mainly through there's a couple of ways to save tax, but the main way is through depreciation on the property. Mm-hmm. What a lot of people don't understand is when property values rise, it's the value of the land that's rising. Buildings get older. And so the government allows you to depreciate a loss on buildings as they get older. So depreciation costs on the structure itself is around about 2.5% per annum, which can add up to around about $4,000 or $5,000 depending on the price of the property in tax benefit. Then you depreciate everything in the property as well, all the fittings and fixtures. They depreciate around about 15% per annum. Yep. That can be a little bit variable, but those kind of things can mean at the end of a financial year, at the end of your first financial year, you could have a tax deduction on that property of say $10,000 or $12,000, which means that's $10,000 or $12,000 that is going to come off the top of your income. So if you're earning $80,000 a year and you've got a $12,000 tax deduction on that property, it means you're only going to be paying tax on $68,000.
That is the next best thing. Once you see the person with their house happy, when they see the tax deduction, that's
absolutely,
a big happy time.
Absolutely.
So, and most people don't get the tax depreciation done. Certainly clients of a good investment property company do, because they get told what to do and when to do it. Yeah. I think the statistics are like 80%. I don't know where it come from, but it's massive. And talk to accountants, they tell you all the time people don't come in. We make sure you do.
That's right. Well, we had, just speaking of that, we had that young guy in New South Wales, had an investment property, bought it somewhere, bought it through, sourced it himself, didn't know anything about the tax minimisation strategy. He'd never actually got a depreciation schedule done, so he was leaving dollars on the table that he could have been claiming back in tax.
Shot a video this week with Gabby, a local accountant, and she said this guy had 6 or 7 properties. Never ever got around to it. Anyway, good way to start with her. She just got him with deductions. So next question must be...
this is for you, Tim.
Good.
What if interest rates go up?
Rejoice. Interest rates. Well, no one's got a crystal ball for a start. No one can tell you whether interest rates are going to go up, down, or remain the same. Okay, but the general consensus is that they will start going up over time. So, but this is a good thing when you sit back and analyse it, because when rates go up, it puts demand on rent, because less people can afford to get involved.
That's exactly right.
So when less people can afford to get involved, there's more people renting, which means there's demand on rent.
Yeah.
Okay. When there's demand, rents rise. Okay. When rents rise, what happens next? The capital value of the property goes up, because it's more valuable. Yeah. So the best advice is to inquire, find out, take advantage of your situation now, not when it's too hard to get involved. Interest rates have never been as low as what they are now, and they're at an all-time low across the board, So it's a good time, and there's some really good pockets, which I'm sure we'll talk about, where you can invest and get really strong yield or rent return at a low price point. And so rents going up ultimately are good for people, because it represents capital growth. Bad if you're not on the property, you're not the landlord, that you've got control. You can do other things to mitigate. If you want certainty, you're a type of person that wants certainty, you can actually lock in interest rates.
Yeah.
All I say there is buyer beware, because the banks rarely get it wrong. If they want you to lock something in, it's probably for a reason, for profits for them. However, you might go half locked in, half not, all locked in, or just full variable. Again, personal choice. Talk to a finance specialist about that. Can't give you advice on that, but just to give you some insight, interest rates will never stay the same, but if they go up and you own property, you're the winner.
Exactly. That's the whole thing. If you own property and interest rates rise, you're in control.
Correct.
And that's the biggest thing. With shares, you don't have any control over shares. You know, if they go down, there's not much you can do. You liquidate and lose money.
That's right.
With property, you're 100% in control. Like Tim said, if interest rates go up, fewer people buy their own property.
Because they can't
stay
afford it.
in
All of
the
a sudden, they
rental
just
pool.
can't afford it.
That's right, and it puts pressure on rents and it drives rents up. So very often the rent increase more than covers the cost of any interest rate rise. So it's not a negative. People think it's a negative
Sure.
simply because it's never really been
Sure.
explained to them.
Sure. Doug, the next question is for you. I've noticed a lot because people are asking about investing in southeast Queensland.
Yep.
And why have I noticed? Because half the people are on holidays in our business and the other half are working like me. And we've had so many inquiries just this week alone from people in Sydney wanting to know about southeast Queensland. So Doug, why are they ringing me?
So many reasons, Tim. Who would not want to own property in southeast Queensland for a start?
Yeah.
I mean, it's the perfect place. But more so than that, when you study property Australia-wide, you'd see the Australian property market's a very diverse market, and at any one time, properties are going all different areas. You might get an area where property market is stagnant. If you look at Sydney at the moment, Sydney has had incredible growth, but that market is starting to slow. The clearance rates for auctions in the past, the last 6 or 7 months, have been around 75-80%.
Sure.
Last weekend they were down to 51%.
Yeah.
So that market's starting to slow. So what happens? They say this market is starting to slow. It tends to be topping out, and I'm not saying it is topped out, but it tends to be topping out. So investors look for the next area that they're going to get good capital growth, and they look for things like infrastructure. Government spending. At Compass, we look at a lot of government reports simply because the government's not trying to sell you anything. The government looks at an area and they're making an assessment of how many schools, what rail.
There's one area in Queensland where they're saying 9.7% growth for the next 20 years. They made that prediction. It's the government at all levels, not at state and federal. There's another part of Queensland, southeast Queensland, where they're saying doubling over the next 19 years. These are all government statistics. But one thing, we put people into markets in Melbourne and Adelaide and later next year Perth. Melbourne's very hard to get people in there at the moment because it's like 1 year wait to get the land title till it can be bought, and the yield's not there because the yield, meaning the amount of rent you get, you can buy something in Queensland at a very low price point with a very strong rent, strong yield. So it's just the perfect little storm, and Queensland suffered from a lack of growth for a long time, but it's here now.
Yeah, and it's that property clock time for Queensland.
The weather's good, and everyone wants to come up and claim a tax deduction, which they still can once a year.
Absolutely.
And, just look at their property with their shirt off and get a tan. So who's doing the next question?
I think this is for you. This person said, I live in Sydney, so who is going to manage my property, and how will I know that the build is going well? Okay, so the build's going well because you'll get videos and pictures. Again, we only use builders that are good, and when you look at the proposition, you'll see why the builders that we use it's not just an investment property. It's done with passion, and there's a lot of features in there that people like, the renters like, and it's good for the owners, and we won't go on about that now, but there's a lot of good features there. And what was I going to say? How do we rent it? Because what we do, who will manage it? The property manager. We give you to a good property manager, and again, rocks in my head if I give you to a bad property manager. And this is probably the weakest link in our whole proven system is the real estate, because they can cause havoc. Most real estates are interested in their property sales and treat their rental role with contempt. We deal with a great real estate here who just do rentals, and if I find out down the track that they're not doing the right thing for our client service, we sort of have a word. We've had no problems though, have we? I mean, this has been... None at all, but over the 15 years I've been doing this, we've had issues in certain states, and it just happens, law of numbers, but we're here as your big brother, because the more we look after you, the more you're going to come back to us and tell people about us. So it's simple philosophy. So that's how we get around that. And if you're put in the right areas where there's strong demand, they rent very easily. That's the easy one, Well, I just drove around one of the places where we've been recommending for people yesterday. Drove around the entire estate, and it's a pretty new estate, a lot of new properties on there. And I commented to the people that came out from Sydney, I said, try and find a sign on a house for rent. There were none. Everything was rented.
That's right. That's the way it works.
Yeah.
So that was my question, so I'm now giving one to you. What if I can't get a tenant?
Okay, well, you know, there's usually two reasons that people can't get a tenant. Number one, the owner could be greedy. And I've seen this happen over the years. You know, the rental market for that area, the price for a property might be $380, $400 a week. But every now and again, you'll get an owner who wants to get 420. Sure. Everything else in the area is 400, but they want 420. Sure. Obviously, their property is going to probably sit vacant for a little while. The other thing is a property that's not well maintained. You know, it might be in a state of disrepair. That's one of the great things about property from Compass is they're brand new properties. So
the vacancy rates goes across the board, doesn't it? Like when you look at
well, that's the whole thing. If you get some people will say, "Oh, I had a look on the internet, and that area's got a 4% vacancy rate." But within that 4%, you can have 2-bedroom houses that are 40 or 50 or 60 years old. You can have 3 bedrooms that are run down. You can have properties in really bad areas. But 4% vacancy rate, when you think about it, that means out of every 100 available properties in that area, 96 are rented, 96 are tenanted. Yeah. So 4% vacancy rate is brilliant, especially considering like some of those dual occupancy properties that we had, they're in an older area. So if a tenant has a choice of renting an old property or a brand new property, everything new and shiny, what are they going to rent?
That's right. So looking at vacancy rates is a cheap way to disappoint yourself. Because people are just taking, and you're looking for the long term. You know, you might have a new estate and it's just coming on and they're looking at the vacancy rate and it's just not right. It's not fair. You don't need to worry about it. It takes sort of a few months to get your house built, of course. So, you know, in the future, things are right. You know, there's no issues there. If you put it in the right area, there's certain suburbs, always areas within areas, and that's what our research tells us. That's where we put you, you know. So
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Pretty good.
That's one of the things about asking people who know. You know, you can ask the next door neighbour and maybe get bad advice if they're not an investor. So one of the things I do love is when people actually phone up and ask questions. What about this? That's why I think this is so valuable, because these are the things that that concern people and stop people investing. There was a saying, I hope I can remember it now, I think it was Jim Rohn, that said, if you work hard on your job, you'll make a living. But if you work hard on yourself, you'll make a fortune. And I think working hard on yourself means getting the questions answered, satisfying yourself. You know, there's a lot of naysayers out there. There's a lot of negativity out there, but there's also a lot of positivity. If you want to find out about investment, go and ask an investor. Ask someone who's got 3 or 4 properties what they think about investing in property.
Yeah, dangerous activity is driving a car, but it's not dangerous if you get lessons and mitigate risk by, you know, changing lanes, not just by reefing the wheel and accelerating, not looking. You actually, you know, put the indicator on and you check your mirrors, do what you do need to do, and it's
some
safe.
of us do, Tim. I've driven with you, and you don't always.
You know, sometimes it's got to get there. But you know, it's the same analogy. If you use a company that helps you tick all the boxes and whatnot, so you know, just go for your due diligence. Yeah. So
this is your question.
Last question,
and this is a big one. What is lender's mortgage insurance, and will I have to pay it?
Lender's mortgage is LMI, lender's mortgage insurance. It's charged by the bank. It's their protection, really, in case you default and can't make the repayments or something. But it's an insurance to make sure that that you can get the loan. Okay, disappointing in some ways, you have to pay, but it is your friend. Why? Because some people just can't get involved. To have that lender's mortgage insurance, it might cost anywhere from a couple $1,000 to $4,000, $5,000, $6,000. But when that's put into the loan and capitalised across the loan, it might mean repayments go up by $14 a week or whatever it might be, if that. The case in point, which it was 6 months ago now, I did a video on it, but I can't remember the people's names, but I wouldn't mention their names on TV. It's live. But they didn't go ahead at the time because someone told them, some expert said, oh, don't take lender's mortgage insurance. Now, the reality is they're buying something for $400,000, and if it went up, say 10%, let's say 5% to be conservative in a growth area, that's $20,000. That's $400 a week growth they're making, all things aside. So $400 a week over that year, and it was going to cost them $14 a week to get that extra $400 worth of capital growth.
Yeah.
It's a no-brainer. It's a tax deduction. It's rolled off into it, and as the place goes up, it means nothing.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing. So please don't just listen to someone who says, don't pay lender's mortgage insurance. Like, just get a grip of what it is.
Yeah, it's a bit the same as I had someone the other day on the phone that said, it was a young person, and they said, my dad told me only buy a cash flow positive property. And I said, well, why is that? And they said, well, because we want a cash flow positive property. And I said, well, what if you could get a property that was going to cost you $20 a week? And they said, well, I wouldn't want that. And I said, well, have a think about it. A property that's negative cash flow today, as rent increases in 2 or 3 years, it's going to be cash flow positive.
100%.
So $20 a week now, okay, is what? $1,040 a year. Say you have to pay that for 3 years. You've spent just over $3,000. But property doubles in value.
Yep.
Quality property every 10 years. So say you
could be 8, could be 12, let's say 10.
That's right, yeah. So say you bought a $400,000 property today in a good area, and it performed well, and in 10 years' time it doubled in value. You've made $400,000, but you never bought it because you didn't want to pay $3,000 in the first couple of years. That's right. It's a bit the same as lender's mortgage insurance. People don't think these through. They're told something, and it sort of becomes like engraved in their mind.
Well, the good news is at the moment, if you invest in the right area, it's very hard to get something that's not cash flow neutral, if not positive.
Yeah.
And so it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, that will conclude our question and answers. And thank you for everyone that put those questions in.
Great.
It's very, very good to see you committed. But the best thing to do is to register your interest, see if you qualify. You'll pick up a nice little gift from us, and just ask some questions, talk to people, and we can arrange all that. There's no obligation, no cost. It's just a matter of you ticking boxes, making yourself comfortable, and you never know, you can become quite wealthy with property.
Exactly.
Thousands and thousands have done it before you, and it is doable, and we have a proven system that works, and it's what we do. So register and enjoy your Christmas break. May it be safe and good for everyone. So with that,
Merry
Doug,
Christmas.
thanks for your time. And
Okay, Tim, pleasure.
see you at the back in the surf one day.
Yeah.
Take care.
Bye.